Welcome everyone to the American Club of Hamburg, here live again on Zoom. Uh, Today we have an interesting guest in light of the national conventions that are starting. Next week will be the Democratic National Convention, the week after the Republican National Convention. So we thought it was very timely to have somebody who can tell us a little bit about the national conventions. It's a bit of a mystery even for Americans to understand exactly some of the intricacies of the convention process. And so we've invited Juan Cerda today, who's with Democrats Abroad for Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. He serves as vice chair of Democrats Abroad in Austria. He lives in Vienna now, and he's the global outreach coordinator for the Democrats Abroad LGBT caucus as well. He's originally from California, and as I said, he resides in Vienna. He has over 15 years of experience working in politics and finance, also as the budget director for the Golden Gate Bridge. He worked for the mayor of San Francisco and the California State Assembly, and he currently works in finance for a sustainable energy program. And the timing couldn't be better because Juan actually knows Kamala Harris, has met her several times, and she was just announced just a few hours ago, literally, as the running mate for Joe Biden. So if we can start with that, Juan, what can you tell us about Kamala Harris?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I want to just say again, thank you to David for having me here today. So I hope to make this as interactive as possible. So please, if you feel the need to ask me a question or anything else, please feel free to do so. First of all, I am over the moon excited about the nomination for Kamala Harris. I've known her from 2003. When she first decided to run for political office. She used to be a district attorney in Alameda County. For those who are not familiar, that's in Oakland, California. And she decided to run for district attorney in San Francisco. And this is when she was going against an incumbent. And it's pretty much in politics, you really don't go against an incumbent because it's so hard to beat. And so everybody told her you cannot win. And so I was involved with this organization called Alice Vitopoulos Democratic Club, which is the oldest gay democratic club in the nation. It was founded about 45 years ago. And it plays a very big role in the San Francisco politics. It's a big much for the gay vote in San Francisco, which has a lot of sway in the way elections run. And so she came and she spoke to us about what she was about, or what she wanted to do. And so we actually endorsed her, and we endorsed her. She was the underdog, in that race. And she won. And she went on to continue her political rise. But the way I got to know her closer was through my work for the mayor's office of San Francisco. The current mayor of San Francisco, her name is London Breed. But before she was mayor, she was actually my colleague during my cohort when I was getting my master's degree in University of San Francisco. So we both actually were students, I guess, or friends. We're still friends today. And she's actually mentor to she's actually the mentee of Kamala Harris. So that's why I got to know her. So when she first decided to run for political office herself to become supervisor in San Francisco, she actually came out and I remember one time I was holding the filing papers and Kamala was like, these are mine, no, these are hers. And so there's a little bit tug and tug, but she is really great and she's been to all of our prides and she's just a really dynamic. I'm really excited to have that we have a very dynamic, young, she's 55. There's a lot of future that we have with her coming, not only for 4 years, but probably the next 8 years. So.
And what's her personality a bit like? Because I mean, we hear that she's she's very tough. She has a reputation of being really tough, and it's all with superlatives when they describe Kamala, and she seems almost larger than life. What does she feel like when you see her in person?
She's just charismatic, and I think that's one of the most important things we're going to have on this ticket is that she has this charismatic. She can be loose, she can be relaxed, and I think that's sometimes a little bit rigid, and sometimes with some politicians that we've had in the past, that's not real, I guess, in that sense. And I think that's what she really brings to this ticket is the charisma, but only that is she's experienced. And Biden was looking for someone from day one that has the experience and can lead from day one. And I think we're going to get with Kamala Harris. Again, she's a fighter. I'm really looking forward to the debate with Mike Pence. This is one of the things that is going to be very exciting to see, is to see how brutal she's going to go after him, because she's known for attacks. If you've seen the judiciary hearings that she did with Jeff Sessions, I mean, she was brutal. I mean, the guy was trembling getting these questions, and it's great to see going against some of these Trump officials, because they really need to be held to the fire and they need to be held accountable, because really sometimes the media does a really poor job of following up and asking the real questions. And I think that was something that she's going to be able to do. And I think in the debate, there's only going to be one vice presidential debate in October. So I think it's going to draw a lot of people to see this. It's going to be a must-watch TV for us, especially us in the political, nerds that we are.
That will be must-see TV,
Yes,
definitely.
Definitely.
Okay, tell us now, illuminate us about what happens at the convention. Maybe this is obviously different this year than any other time because you won't physically be together. Is it all virtual this time? And tell us a little bit about the process and the importance of convention. Also, taking into account that we have also a German crowd who, you might need to start at explain it a little bit from scratch. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So the Democratic Convention, every 4 years, the both parties, Democrats or Republicans, they will officially come together and they will nominate what's called the delegate. And so I'm a delegate. I represent as David mentioned, the Europe portion of Democrats abroad. And we basically have a voting. Our duty is to vote for the nominee or whoever the nominee is. We're pledged delegates, so I have to vote for Joe Biden. If there was something, God forbid, something were to happen to him, then I would be released and I could nominate someone else. And that was what we'd have. And we would also, in the second round, let's say we didn't have a nominee, then we would have to, there would be a broken convention. And they would have to nominate someone else to take the place. Fortunately, we don't have that situation. So right now, it is Joe Biden. We have actually been voting electronically. Normally, we would meet in person. This year, we're supposed to meet in Milwaukee, but we're actually not going to be able to do that because of COVID-19. And it's, as much as you can see in the news, it gets worse and worse every day. Over 150,000 Americans have died that we know of COVID-19. There was talk about maybe doing a hybrid where Joe Biden might have accepted the nomination in Milwaukee, but no delegates would travel to. But now we just heard about a week and a half ago that no one will be traveling to Milwaukee. Basically, all the speeches will be given at their homes of the people. So President Obama, Michelle Obama, the Clintons will all be doing their virtual speeches online. Same thing with the nomination, the acceptance of the nomination from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be online. Tonight, we actually have a call tonight. We'll get a little bit more information what's going on with regards to the schedule. So after this call, I'll be doing that. But basically, it is all virtual. It will not be interactive. Unfortunately, it's not going to be like us right now in Zoom where we can talk to each other and stuff. It's basically going to be already pre-taped. Again, everything with regards to media has to be sort of pre-taped already. But we're ready. And I think that's one of the really exciting things. There'll be 3-hour programming every night starting on Monday, May 17th. There's also other ways you can get involved. There's caucuses for each different groups that kick off around 5 o'clock our time. There's like the LGBT caucus, Hispanic caucus, the Labor caucus. And you don't have to be a delegate to be part of it, or at least to hear some of the speakers speak. So that could be exciting to see for some of you guys. For the other, there's talk about maybe us delegates having some type of little virtual world, but we'll know a little bit more tonight as to what that's going to look like. For now, it's just basically just us. We've already kind of did our duty already, which is already vote. We voted via PDF and sent an email in, and that was it. That was our vote. So.
Do you think this voting at some point could be made for the general vote? Why can't we vote electronically? Why do we have to depend on for mail-in voting that we have to do it with the post office? Is there?
Right. So right now, voting is done by state and by local. It's not actually a federal mandate for everyone to have. So basically, each state handles their elections differently. The more democratic, the more easier it is. I vote in California. I vote in San Francisco. So I get my ballot in by email. I print it out in my PDF. and I can either fax it. If there's actually people actually have faxes, but there's actually an app for that, so you guys can get an app. It's easy. And there's other places you can mail it and email it. But right now, it is so critical for you guys to vote back home, because it's votefromabroad.org. Basically, you want to request your ballot, be able to mail it back, because it's going to take a long time. And right now, Trump is stopping the funding for the United States Postal Service. And so right now, the mail, if you haven't noticed, it's taken a long time to get to you and to me. And so there's a big lag time right now. And he's basically trying to prevent people to vote. But it's also a double sword, because the Republicans, their biggest people that vote are older people that vote early.
Yeah.
So it is not all the people. I'm not sure how well they're thinking of this through, but they're thinking that ways of preventing for people to vote, which is just not our way. This is a democracy. We should be able to vote and express our vote. But suppression is what they want to do, and we are not going to stand for it. We're going to continue fighting and making sure that people have their ability to vote.
Yeah. Now, you said that the general public can watch some of the caucuses meetings during the convention. What about just the general the plenary sessions, or I don't know how it's broken up? Does the public have access to those, since they are all virtual, and can we watch the whole thing? Yeah.
Yeah, you can watch it on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it online. What I'll do right now on a bit, I can send you actually guys the link of how you guys can watch it, the schedule. Unfortunately, it will be 3 in the morning our time. So, so that will be definitely, unless you're a night owl, maybe you are, or maybe an early bird riser, maybe you can catch it. But most of it you can watch it later on in the morning when you wake up the next day. So unless you guys want to watch it really early, but it's going to be 3 in the morning our time, which is rather early for us. So.
Yeah. Okay, that will be good. Now, when I was speaking with Candace, from the head of Democrats Abroad Germany, and she was mentioning some delegates for Bernie Sanders delegates, for example. Now, what do Bernie Sanders delegates do during the national convention? Whom do they vote for?
So Democrats Abroad, we get 13 delegates that go to the state party or go to the convention. 4 of those was Biden, and 9 of those were for Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders. They actually still vote for Sanders. They still have the ability to do so. And they can either vote for Biden or for Sanders. I'm pledged to Biden, and it was an honor to vote for Biden, and so I voted for Biden. And then we also have the right to vote for the party platform and the party resolution as well. So that's part of their duty, is to make sure that they vote for that, and that's how they capacity they do that.
Okay. And tell us, how does one become a delegate?
So you start running, and you get to know people. But most importantly, I think one of the things is, for those that might not be familiar, there's a state party called Democrats Abroad. We basically are the official Democratic Party for all the Americans that are living abroad. There's over 9 million Americans living abroad. And our primary mission is to register Americans to vote. We do have a nonpartisan arm, which is called votefromabroad.org. You can request your ballot. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, declined for state, or independent. You can actually just request your ballot and vote. There is an opportunity for you to register as a member of Democrats Abroad, which is for free. But what really great benefit is you would get to know a little bit more about what's going on, get involved, be able to register other Americans. And we basically really focus on, we are the margin of difference. When an election happens, like in the state of Florida or Georgia, where the margin of victory is only within 1 point, those overseas ballots can make a win. And that's one of the critical things that we do with Democrat Abroad. We bring it home. And I think that's one of the great things. I love being a part of Democrats Abroad. So I got involved with them for when I first moved to Vienna. I lived in Brazil for a while. I lived in South America. Then I moved to Vienna for my job. And I got involved with Democrats Abroad, and I just started to become a volunteer. It was during Trump got elected. I had been working for Hillary Clinton in Iowa during the primary, and so I had left just after the primary in Iowa down to South America because I wasn't able to stay in the States for work. And so I was really disappointed when Trump won, and the way I channeled my energy was to get involved. And with Democrats Abroad, I was able to do some things in activity. And I decided to run for delegate just because I think it's important to have representation. It's important to have people that are young, people that are diverse, diverse backgrounds, and to bring a different voice to the delegation. But obviously, I was looking forward to going to the convention because that's part of one of the really cool things to do. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But I'm still doing a great thing, just try to have fun with it and talk and stuff. But
so
it's
who
great.
actually makes the decision of who will be a delegate?
So the people who make the decisions are the chairs and the vice chairs of the Democrats abroad and the country and the elected officials of each country committee.
So Democrats abroad acts almost like a small state.
Correct.
As far as it has some voting rights.
Correct.
And there are other groups that analogous to Democrats abroad that also have this status, or is it
no?
Besides that, it's just the states and territories.
We're the only ones. The other territories also have their own, but we have our own that covers everything else other than the territories. We basically have a global primary. We have a regional primary first, and then we have a global primary. And we make sure that our delegates are 50-50 female and male, or non-binary as well. And we also make sure that we encourage for affirmative action in regards to make sure there's a diverse group of people on it. It's goals. It's not something that has to happen. But one of the things that we mainly look for if you do decide to run is how do we know you? How are you involved with the campaign? If you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, were you on the campaign? Did you campaign for him? Are you a member of Democrats Abroad? Have we known you? Because I think some people think it's like an insider's thing, but in the end of the day, you're going to be representing Democrats Abroad. And so we want to make sure that when you're actually speaking, like myself right now, I can actually do an okay job of explaining what we do. And so I think that's one of the main things, because most people don't know what Democrats Abroad is. We have to remind the state party back home is what Democrats Abroad is about. So it's always a teaching moment, because most people aren't aware of it, because it's mostly the 50 states and plus the territories that some people are aware of. But yes, Democrats Abroad, it's a huge, we actually have the same delegate votes as South Dakota or North Dakota, as any other state like that. So we do play a role in ourselves. So. And we also have different.
There's a large population abroad, right?
Yes, exactly.
Tell us about the demographics of expats that are.
So that we know of with the State Department, there's over 9 million Americans that live abroad. Some of them want to be seen, some of them not want to be found for whatever reason. So it's always an interesting way of finding. So if you do have friends that are Americans, please send them our way. We love to hear from them and from you, and to get you registered to vote. You do not have to be worried about taxes or anything else. It's something that sometimes gets brought up, is it will affect my taxes, or I have to report my taxes. That's something we don't care about, and that's something that the election system doesn't care about. So that's not going to be an issue.
So far.
So far, exactly. That we know of. Yeah, we definitely want you to get registered to vote. We want you to, it's so crucial, this election, every election. And the thing is, this election is not over. I'm saying, what I mean is, once this election is over, when our work is not done, it's going to continue, because what Trump is a symptom of Trumpism, of all the Republicans that continue to support him, that continue to enable him to do so. And we're going to have a lot of work to do in the next 2 years and the next 4 years, because it's not going to be over just with him. We're going to have some other Trumps that are going to come forward, and it's just not possible to have them in elected office.
Our last speaker, we just had Mo Davis on just a few days ago, and he's running for Congress. He's running for the empty seat that was vacated by Mark Meadows when he became Trump's chief of staff. And he's running in the North Carolina 11th district, swing state. Interesting fellow. He was the prosecutor for the military especially during the Guantanamo trials, and he was a conscientious objector. He refused to, in the sense that he refused to admit testimony as a prosecutor, testimony that was taken under any form of torture. So that included waterboarding, and that was quite a thing to do back in 2008. and now he's running for the Democrats on that seat. And now this is the second event having you on. We have with Democrats Abroad, and one of our members asked me today. They said, "Are you now officially Democrat, the club?" And I said, "No, we're nonpartisan. We always look to hear both sides, to get both sides on. But the challenge is to try to get Republicans on. There don't seem to be many around. We run into this every election cycle. Every 4 years, we're part of the big ARD TV live broadcast with Sandra Maischberger and Jorn Schonenbaum, and we're on set. We always take 50 American Club members there. And the challenge is the same every time, because the media wants to hear from Republicans, and I always get a lot of calls from media if I can connect them, and there just don't seem to be any around. Maybe one, and then they go back. Now, so what I'm leading up to is, what is the counterpart? Because Democrats Abroad has a big footprint throughout Europe, and but what is the equivalent for the Republicans? What do they have? Is there Republicans Abroad? Is there activity there? Do you know any of these people? So what can you tell us about them?
I've heard of these Republicans that live out here, but I really don't know any of them. I know there is a Republican somewhat abroad kind of thing, but it's not very active. It's actually quite small. But I think one of the things is that when you get to live abroad as an American, you get to see a little bit of different systems of how they work and what really works and what doesn't. And one of the things I've known living in Austria, and you guys living in Germany, how well the response has been to the COVID-19, how well our leaders, just doesn't have to be we were Republican or Democrat. It was just listening to facts. And that's what we need. So I don't mean to make this obviously as partisan as I spoke earlier, but we do need competent leadership. And I think that's what we can have with Joe Biden and Harris. And I'm very grateful for the Austrian government with Cruz. Even though I'm not a big supporter of Cruz, but he's part of the Greens Party. I don't get involved with that politics because as an American, we're not allowed to do, but I can speak my opinion, at least up to myself and maybe to you. You know, it's, we really don't get involved with the Republican Party because it really is non-existent for us here. The main thing is our biggest fight that we have is sometimes apathy. Because if you guys remember in 2016, a lot of people voted, but only 50% of the population actually voted. It was 100 million Americans that chose either not to vote, or their vote was suppressed. And so that is actually our biggest enemy, is actually the apathy that comes with not voting. And that's what we're trying. So I actually don't go after the Trump supporters. I hope everything is good in your life and you somehow see the light. But I'm not going to try to convince you not to support him, because my energy can be spent otherwise in other things.
How do you think since the George Floyd beating and the daily manifestations in cities all across the U.S. How do you think this will affect motivating these other 50% of people that don't vote? Do you think this will actually cut into that significant amount?
I think we are at a boiling point. America is at a boiling point. We were fed up with the COVID-19 with regards to quarantine, with regards to people not paying attention, and then we saw the horrible atrocity that happened to George Floyd and other people that have been murdered by the police, and yet nothing has happened. And so people went to the protests, as they should, to protest for their rights and for people to stop being killed. It is not okay for any police officer to kill someone in cold blood. It is just not okay. And yet somehow the protests were about, oh, the riots and this and that. No, what the outrage was someone being killed. And the fact that someone may question, well, what did he do wrong? It's like, no, the police isn't Batman to be out killing someone or vengeance. It's supposed to be bringing someone into custody and taking them and giving them a due process. That's what the political system should be. And so now there's talk about defunding the police. Doesn't mean we're not going to take out police. It just means that we're not going to be funding the police all the time. We're always defunding the school system. We're always defunding our healthcare system. It is time that we put more priority. The police officer should not be the #1 call for every single thing. for them to deal with. So it's just be a reapproach of how we should deal with our community. And the community should be able to police themselves in regards to that and how they should.
What do you think will be the top three priorities for the if Democrats win the executive?
So the first HR resolution is to actually make sure that we have our voting rights, because that is our number one thing, is to make sure that everyone has a right to vote. So that will be the first thing that will actually be most likely will be passed by the House and then the Senate once if we weren't able to win the Senate and go to President Biden to be. Because without voting, we were not able to move forward. If our population is not able to vote, then there is no true democracy in the U.S. So that will be priority number one. The other thing will be the recovery for the COVID-19 and the impact of the economy that's having and the healthcare. But more importantly for me, it would be immigration. We are long overdue for immigration reform in the U.S. We have over 20 million migrants that are living basically in the dark, and it's an under economy that's keeping our economy running. Many people, even though they were stuck at home, there were still people going into the fields. I have family members who basically work the fields in California that continue to be fed, continue to feed the country, but continue to be treated like different people, that second-class citizens, and it's not right. And so there's still children right now being kept in cages right now. Children being kept in cages still to this day. And so there is a lot of work that we need to do. There's a lot of justice. We also got to give the Supreme Court justice. We've got to give Ruth Ginsburg her ability to retire if she chooses to do so. So we do have there's a lot at stake at this election. But most importantly is also, I know that Biden and Harris, one of their primary objectives will be climate change. And that's also very dear to my heart. As you mentioned, I work for a sustainable energy program in Vienna. We are actually fighting in regards to making sure that people get energy access all over the world. We ensure that in different parts of Africa and different parts of South America. And right now with COVID-19, it is actually so difficult. And right now it's impacting so many different communities. So we're very privileged right now to be able to once again be able to roam around and be free and to enjoy our holidays. But many people are not. And I think there's just a perspective of our governments, of the governments that are in Europe.
Yeah. Well, in my day job, I work for the European Union projects for the International Urban Cooperation, which is now coming to an end. And the next round is going to be the International Urban Cooperation with Regional Innovation. So bringing in that aspect into it. And so something like the European Green Deal is just taken as a given, whereas in the U.S. The Green New Deal is considered, at least by the Republicans, they portray it as a very left-wing platform. How I know Biden and Kamala have not also fully embraced that. Where do you see that? How do you see their support to something like the new Green Deal?
I think in regards to the Green Deal, I mean, there's other things that we have to do. First is we got to get back to the Paris Climate Agreement. So that's the first thing that we do. One of the things that will have to happen was the Paris Agreement. We'll have to we have to get back into that because it is so sad that we are one of maybe 2 or 3 countries that are now decided to leave the climate agreement. So that will be the first thing to do. And so we'll be back on track for that. The second thing is we actually have to get a right EPA director agency, because right now it's a joke who's there. So there's a lot of regulations that are completely been backrolled. Everything that basically Obama tried to do, Trump has tried to take over, has completely, tried to overturn. So he's just really trying to overdo his presidency, but he won't succeed, and we'll continue to work on that. But regards to the Green Deal, there's a lot of merit to it. There's a lot of things that we can have, but because there's always this like unstoppable, because it's so expensive. It's like, yeah, we spend so much money on the military, we spend so much money on the tax cuts, and that's really where the money is going. And I think it's all again the boogeyman of socialism that the Republicans keep going. But I think this is going to be a really overturned. And I think one of the things that we're seeing is that Texas is right now within distance of Joe Biden winning. If Joe Biden takes Texas, the Republicans will have no way of taking back any Republican presidency from here on. California used to be Republican before, and I was born In California, it used to be Ronald Reagan's. This is Ronald Reagan's state. This used to be all Republican, Pete Wilson. I remember marching as a kid against him, Prop 187, which is basically would have taken away just education to children of migrants, of people. Mm-hmm. And I remember marching with my mom, and we were going in the streets and stuff and protesting things like this. Because again, we have to take a stand. And we took him out of office. He was no longer in office. And now we have got a former mayor of San Francisco as governor. We have a former district attorney, now senator, now running for vice president. We have Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. San Francisco is running 1/4 of the country, and it's one of the most progressive states, and it's coming from the most progressive city in the country. And so it's very exciting to me. So when people say, why are the progressives not happy? I'm like, what do you mean? It's coming from San Francisco. I mean, how more progressive can you get? So it's very exciting. And I think we're going to see a lot of change, because San Francisco is where gay marriage started. San Francisco is where climate change started. California has led the way for the things, for a lot of progressive things that we're going to have. I'm talking about paternity leave, talking about making sure that people have access to healthcare. I think we're going to see a lot of great things coming along, and I'm really, really looking forward to this presidency of Kamala Harris.
And women have been pushing the boundary in California. There hasn't been, I think, since 1993 was the last time there wasn't a woman senator from California.
Exactly. Kamala Harris is the third Black woman senator we've had, and is only the third senator of California that we've had. There's only been the Year of the Women as Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein.
Yep.
So it's a big, it's going to be, that glass ceiling needs to be broken. Hillary put lots of millions of cracks on that damn thing, but it's close. It's very close. We're long overdue for this country.
And now I just want to let people know, if you want to ask a question, you can either raise your hand or put it in the chat, and then I can call on you. So think about that. Until we do have a question, can you tell me, did you also were you with Biden on any of his during any of his travels or campaigns, or were you there, or were you already in Austria at that time?
I was already in Austria in that time. I haven't had the pleasure. I will say about being on the Hillary Clinton when she was running for office in Iowa. That was really exciting. That was in 2016 during the primary in Iowa. It's freezing during that time. It's December, November, January timeframe. So it's very cold. It's probably as cold as gets here in Austria and in Germany. But it is crazy to see, because you have to go out to you have to get people to the caucus. And that was kind of a bit of a fiasco this year, if you guys recall. They couldn't figure out who was the Democratic nominee or the Democratic winner until a couple of days later. So it's really important to be accurate in that. So I think Iowa is going to be a little different coming in 4 years. They may not have their primary be the first in the nation. I think it's going to be really interesting to see, because their clout's going to be, it's kind of like they lost it. So they're not going to have it. And it's kind of been something they've had for many years. And so a lot of states are going to be like, oh, we can do it right. And this caucus thing, it may be going away because there is an opportunity. And so we have a great opportunity to really reform the system, because we really want it to be a voting process. When people vote instead of a caucus, there's much more participation in the voting, in the democratic process.
Yeah, Talal, you can unmute yourself.
Sure. So thanks, Juan, for being here. Just a quick question about then, we focused a lot about Biden and Kamala Harris in terms of the presidency, but what about House and Senate? I think a lot of things can't get done unless you also have some support for the House and Senate. And I'm wondering what your perspective is going into this year of how that will impact Biden's presidency and sort of the outcome of what's happened now in the U.S. Where do you think that's going?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I think we definitely need a trifecta. We definitely need the House, Senate, and the White House, obviously. We will definitely win the House again. It's just by how big of a margin we're going to win it again. So Speaker Pelosi will be Speaker. Pelosi, she decided she's going to do another 2 years. So it's 4 years as Speaker. That was part of her bargain to become a Speaker again, which is very exciting, because this is, again, she's the second woman or the first woman, and then second time again to become Speaker of the House, which is also from San Francisco again. And she started as a library commissioner in San Francisco. She also has an amazing story too. So again, you can start in the commission and start small and, you know, go up to the highest office. But yes, the Senate is a crucial. Mitch McConnell needs to go. He is literally stopping every single thing that happens. Nothing is happening. The reason why now there's no unemployment checks coming, there's no second relief for Americans that are struggling. There's people are being evicted. Is because Mitch McConnell has decided to refuse, and the Republicans can't get themselves together as to what they want to do. And right now it is a complete mess. And he continues to be a roadblock for anything that to happen. And so we need to definitely win the Senate. We do have the opportunity to win the Senate. There is going to be some close races. Most likely we might lose. There's the Doug Jones in Alabama. It'll be really hard to keep that. But there's some upswings in Colorado. There's a couple other states up northwest that we will have an opportunity. Arizona, we have John Kelly, who's an astronaut, and who's married to Gabby Giffords, who, if you know familiar with her. Unfortunately she was shot in the head, and she survived, and she has done an amazing recovery. And her husband decided to run for Senate, and I think he'll be an excellent senator for the state of Arizona. So we do have a lot of really great candidates running. There's also a candidate in Georgia who's very young. I think he's like 34, 33, almost my age. I wouldn't say young because I don't think myself I'm young anymore. I'm starting to hit the late 30s. So at least in the gay world, it goes after 25, you're too old. So just if any guys are gay, so it's just, yeah. But yeah, so we do have a lot of great opportunity to win the Senate, because if not, we're not going to be able to do much of anything that we want to do. So it's going to be very crucial. So one of the things Democrats abroad is actually we're focusing a lot of our political into the political swing states like Florida, like Georgia, like Iowa, Pennsylvania. We want to make sure they not only go Democrat for the presidency, but also it's basically down ticket, vote Democrat all the way from your high school board to your library commission to the dog catcher. It is about ensuring that we have Democrats, and that's what we failed. We have failed in the midterms because we get too lazy, we do get too complacent, and we let the Republicans take over all the state assembly seats, and then there's suppression, there's a vote that gets, not able to have the women's right to choose, there's all these things against the gay community. It is just doesn't stop in regards to, we want to be left alone, but yet they somehow want to affect everything that we do in our private lives. So I don't understand it really sometimes. So that was a long answer to that question. I hope that.
Oh, it's good. I appreciated that.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom. Herbert, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I actually addressed it to Juan on his private chat. If you can do economic politics or policies and maybe financial tax issues, where does Kamala stand on those if you compare them to Bernie Sanders' position?
Yeah, I mean, Bernie is all about tax the rich. And I think Kamala Harris will also be about making sure, fighting for the little guy, to making sure that they have the ability to get what their needed share is. It probably will not be as aggressive as Bernie Sanders, but I think it will be something in the middle. And I think she'll be something going against either the corporation tax or something like that. But I'm not too familiar with their tax, so I can't really speak into that. But I know that she will be for the little guy, which is what we need, because we keep getting lost in regards to corporations that are continuing to get all the benefits. It was really disgusting to see after the stimulus package, over $3 trillion was passed, and all that money went to these small businesses and corporations. And it was horrible to see that these companies got millions of dollars in basically not even loans, basically grants that were later don't have to pay back. And because they either had a loss, and other places like the cruise line cruises, they wanted a lifeline. It's like, but you're based in the Bahamas. Why do you want credit from the U.S.? Why do you want our taxes? It's disgusting to see that. And a bunch of it's a lot of cronyism that has happened right now. There has not been the best oversight right now of the money that's been spent. Right now, there's so many. I think Trump has gotten millions of dollars from his hotels in regards to the recovery. But yet Americans, all they got, the average, $1,200. It's horrible. It's really, really, really horrible. So we'll definitely talk about taxes, but I think right now it's about spending the right way right now in regards to our country. I think one of the things we're going to be looking at is the way we're going to be we're going to be funding the military as well. I think that's going to be really interesting to see on the next administration of how we fund our military, how we fund other things, because we spend so much money on military, and we're no longer playing that active role as we used to before. So there's going to be other ways we're going to be able to get involved. But I think the first thing we're going to do once January 20th comes is have America regain the trust of the world. And I think that's really excited for.
So tell us what are you going to be mostly busy with between now and Election Day, and how will you do it?
Registering voters and Americans and talking to more people because that's going to be basically number one. I'm also doing a couple of fundraisers for Democrats Abroad. If you guys want to be interested, I'm happy to provide you for that. We do have some exciting things. We are having a drag bingo fundraiser on September the 5th. Basically, we have a drag queen from New York, and she does basically bingo, and she does performances, and we just play bingo. And that's a really great way of just fundraising for Democrats Abroad. And we do that. So that's part of the things we're going to be doing. We also have a host of different panelists. We had Susan Rice as a webinar speaker last week for us. We're going to have Mayor San Francisco pretty soon. I got her to agree to do one for us, a webinar. So we have different speakers. We had Howard Dean, the former DNC chair of Democratic Party. He was one of our guest speakers. So we have different speakers come to us, not to us, but we seek them out to come talk to us. And that's exciting because we get to have a bit of a more interaction and with them as well. It's a webinar, but we have an ability to ask questions directly, which is also a really nice thing just to have access to, particularly with Senator Kaine. We asked him about a specific policy in regards to the LGBT community, because he is, as an American, if I were to marry a foreigner, this is just a little more information of how things are working right now in regards to the Trump administration. If I were to marry my spouse, a man, he's a foreigner, and the donor of the sperm was from him, my American citizenship would not be able to pass to the child, because I am not the biological father. So those are the things that we're trying to fight right now to make sure, because it should not be treated differently. And so those are the things we're working on the Democrats Abroad side. So not only do we make sure Americans are registering to vote, but we also help influence policy, and to basically, particularly for Americans that are living abroad, because the tax system, we also have, there's another whole committee that they go to Washington DC each year. Well, they couldn't do it this year. But they actually go door to door and actually talk to House members and different staff members about the issues that affect Americans, like the taxes, like you mentioned, Herbert, earlier, about taxes. And so there are committees and caucuses that get a little bit more involved with that detail.
And as how interested is the media right now? Are they requesting a lot of interviews from you?
Yes, a lot of interviews are going on right now, particularly just because I do have a little bit closer ties to Kamala Harris than most of the delegates are on our delegation from being from San Francisco. So there's a lot more interviews right now that are going on right now. So it's been a little bit back to back and stuff. So that's been exciting. It's good because one of the things that we were looking for anytime in Democrats Abroad is to talk about Democrats Abroad and who we are, and just to get the message out there. The best thing to know is like, hey, you're an American, are you registered to vote? And that's usually one of the first questions I ask when I meet an American.
And what type of engagement, what are you planning to do after Election Day?
After Election Day, I will sleep. It's the number one plan. We will most likely, I will be continuing to work in regards to, this is all volunteer, by the way. I don't get paid to do all this stuff that I do. With regards to Democrats Abroad, it's all a volunteer organization, but there's so many committed people. It's really an amazing organization to be a part of because there's people from all over the world that are in different time zones and are just committed to really making a difference. And so that's really exciting to see that, to see other Americans who want to be involved, who want to take action. But the main thing after the election will be to see we will, as a delegate, I do get an opportunity to go to the inauguration. There's a special seating area that may happen. But again, with COVID-19 and, America is not, I don't know if we're able to go back home at all. You have to quarantine yourself. I wouldn't want to expose anybody, so I would probably want to quarantine myself for 2 weeks. There's no random test. There's not a random test. There's not a test that you can take that will give you back within 3 days. Is right now the average is 7 days to get it back, your COVID-19 test. That's crazy. 7 days. Yeah. Imagine how many people have been interacting with that person. And this is why this pandemic is just so out of. It can be contained, and it didn't have to go be this bad, but it is, and now we're facing the consequences of it, and unfortunately, so we'll see if we're able to go to the inauguration. That would be amazing, but I don't see that happening unless there's a miracle vaccine that is supplied to the population, and we're kind of a herd immunity protection. I don't see that happening either. But what I am excited is to see what a Trump administration, Trump administration is going to be gone, and a Biden administration is going to look like in the cabinet, and how diverse and how well equipped they're going to be to handle the agencies that they're supposed to be in charge of, and to have ambassadors that are actually going to be doing the work and actually representing Americans abroad, because that's really what we need to do. Is the world has really lost its trust in America. We're no longer the beacon for hope and for progress. There are other people that are taking center stage, and so there's going to be a lot of rebuilding that we're going to do in this election in the next 4 years. First is to get ourselves together. It's going to be priority number one, is to get people, make sure that they have jobs, they have security, they're not losing their homes. Right now, there's so many millions of Americans have lost their healthcare system, and so lost access to healthcare. Excuse me. And so it's just it's going to be a very big hurdle next year. But there's going to be a lot of things we're going to have to do right.
Do you think that Michelle Obama and others from the past will have a role in the upcoming administration if they win?
I would love for Michelle Obama to win, to run for president one day. I think that's like the dream ticket, that she would to run. But I don't think she's, she said many times, at least in her book and her in some of the interviews that she's had, that she's just, the politics is just, we need good people to run for political office. And I think it's such a dirty game, and it's such a disproportionate, so much trolls. And then one of the things I talked to when I was talking to the mayor of San Francisco the other day, and she's just like, we might sometimes feel exhausted because there's just so much negativity from the troll side in regards to the internet. And so it's just such a, it can be a little draining sometimes. And I think it's, but we still persevere, and she continues to be strong. She continues to do a great job. She did a really great job with COVID-19 in San Francisco. She was one of the first mayors to actually make sure that there was a quarantine, there was a lockdown, and took the gradual measures of doing it. And so California led the way during the first part of the wave of the quarantine. Unfortunately, the rest of the country didn't do so. So we're back in the situation we were in earlier. So it's most unfortunate.
Yeah. And do you think that there'll be any new secretary level positions or departments created under a Biden presidency?
Yeah,
technology, for example, or
I think technology will definitely be something that will definitely be something, because we are way behind in our Wi-Fi broadband capabilities everywhere in the country. I think one of the things is my sister's a teacher, and so it's been really hard for her because not every child has access to internet all the time, and there's multiple children at home, and so how do you judge, or how do you share bandwidth and stuff? And so there's a lot of children right now that are basically being taught via Zoom. And so there's a huge gap that's going to be in technology. There's going to be a lot of children that are not going to be up to date as to what's going on. So I'm really concerned about how we're going to move as a country, because there's going to be a lot of work we're going to have to do. And technology is going to be one of them, because we are going to be behind in a lot of ways. And so technology will definitely be one. I hope there's a whole climate change task force. I hope there's a whole reinstated epidemic task force, so we're ready for the next one, because this is not going to be the last pandemic, unfortunately, that we're going to be seeing, because it is just another cousin of another virus, SARS or whatever else was there before. So this is just more contagious, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. I think regarding technology, Andrew Yang is up for that. He's already put that out there, that he'd like to fill that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Met him, by the way?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. Because he's a bit from your neck of the woods as well. Juan, this has been so nice. Thanks for taking the time here with us, addressing the American Club of Hamburg. This is starting next Monday is the convention, right? So we can also, the public can chime in, as you say. We will look for that maybe after. You can send us some links. We'll put that on our website. We already put on the link for the nonpartisan voting registration link onto our website. So if you pass us on any information about how to follow the Democratic Convention, where we can watch the plenary sessions or the caucus sessions, please send that to us. And just thanks for taking the time. I know it's probably a busy time for you now between work and heating up before the election. It's hard to imagine the next 80 or so days until November 3rd. And it's also hard to get our minds around not election day, but they say election week or even longer. And all of the shenanigans that will occur at that time. And then again, also on January 20th, that's also a bit hard to envision at this moment. But you know, we are Americans, and we've always seemed to come through when faced with tough challenges. Hopefully, we will get through this well without too much pain and come out better for it. I think on the silver lining of everything is that it's awakened a whole new sectors of the population that previously were very apolitical and really not following what the role of how important it is, how politicians play, and still people are very critical and of what politicians do, but somebody has to do that job, and we need to support the good people to do these jobs. They're so important, so essential. So through all the movements, the Black Lives Matter, et cetera, that's happened this year, and through hopefully the silver lining is that people are a bit more following this, and that we come out better for it on the other side.
Thank you so much for having me. I just put in the schedule in for the Democratic National Convention and also the speakers for that. So hopefully you guys can check that out again. And also you can also check out the caucuses. So you can sign up for those. And then you can also, there's a little link that says watch, and that will give you the videos of how to watch the Democratic Convention. But again, I want to say thank you guys so much for allowing me to be on your webinar. It was a lot of fun. And thank you so much, David, for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming, Juan, and we look forward to. And please join us again for some of our events. We'll send you.
Yeah, I would actually like a little bit know more about Americans. So please let me know, and I can get involved a bit more. Awesome.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. And thanks everybody else for joining us. We're recording this, so we'll distribute the links once we've when the video is ready. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks everyone. Have a good evening.